Welcome back to the deep dive. Look, if you're leading sales teams, trying to boost those conversion numbers, or heading up a company where revenue growth is everything, well, you know the margins are razor thin these days, getting from 95% of quota to, say, 150%. It's rarely just the product. Often it really comes down to psychology, to behavioral science. So today, our mission is a focused deep dive into the psychology of persuasion, specifically for you, the sales executive. We've pulled insights from Wyn Nathan Davis and the sales experts to give you an immediate edge. We're talking 6 powerful psychology-based hacks, things designed to build trust faster, cut through buyer resistance, and yet boost those conversions. The main idea here, and what we're focusing on, is pretty straightforward. Closing deals isn't only about what you sell, it's really about how you communicate, the nonverbals, the emotional triggers.
Exactly. And that's where leadership really needs to put its focus. For our listeners, managers, executives, these aren't just, tricks for individual reps. They're smart communication habits. Habits rooted in how people actually behave. Things you need to build into your training systemically. We're basically handing you a playbook for influencing behavior, but at scale. We've kind of laid these out in a sequence, starting with the stickiest points. Handling conflict and just getting your foot in the door. So let's jump right in with de-escalation.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. Every sales leader knows the situation, the angry client. Maybe a prospect feels ignored or a current customer is just plain frustrated. They come in hot. The natural reaction is often to face them head on, right? Make eye contact, stand your ground. But the research suggests that's maybe the worst thing you can do psychologically.
Absolutely. Hack number 1 is simple, but honestly so critical for managing conflict. Train your teams to stand aside angry customers. Think about it from a primal level. When 2 people square off, face to face, especially when things are tense, it triggers that fight or flight response subconsciously. That direct positioning feels confrontational. It just reinforces the me versus you dynamic.
Okay. But doesn't standing to the side feel a bit awkward? Or maybe even like you're avoiding the issue. Could a client read that as disinterest?
That's a fair point. But the goal isn't awkwardness, it's deliberate de-escalation. By shifting slightly just to the side, you fundamentally change the physical setup. You're signaling cooperation. Suddenly you're side by side. Visual psychologically, you're now looking at the problem together, not at each other. It's a subtle shift in body language, but it can dramatically lower that perceived threat. It allows the more rational part of the client's brain to kind of, come back online.
Ah, I see. So it takes the fight posture out of it.
Precisely. And for sales leaders listening, the actionable takeaway is make this part of your role playing. Don't just train the words, train the movement. The moment things get heated, step to the side. It's an instant friction reducer.
It makes a lot of sense. Changes the whole energy. Okay, let's switch gears. What about the opposite problem? Not anger, but indifference. Or just getting past that gatekeeper to reach the decision maker. The hard pitch often just hits a wall.
Right, and this is where hack number 2 comes in. We call it the empathy lever. It boils down to one simple phrase. Can you help me? It sounds almost too basic, but most people are wired to respond positively to a request for help. It's a fundamental social instinct.
Instead of demanding time or attention.
Exactly. Think about the standard approach. Hi, I need 10 minutes with Mrs. Jones. It's demanding. It puts the gatekeeper on the defensive immediately.
Okay, so how does "can you help me" change that dynamic?
Well, imagine framing it differently. Something like, hi, I'm trying to make sure this market data gets to the right person on the strategy team. It could be really valuable for your Q3 planning. Could you possibly help me figure out the best way to do that? See, it reframes the interaction. You're not demanding, you're seeking assistance. It turns the gatekeeper from an obstacle into a collaborator on a small task. They feel helpful, not defensive.
And this works with the actual prospect, too, the busy executive.
Oh, definitely. Especially with senior people who value their time. Instead of launching into a pitch, try something like, before I put together this analysis, could you help me understand which specific metric your team is most focused on optimizing right now?
That's a good way. It shows respect for their expertise and their time. It pulls them into a consultative mode, not a fend off the salesperson mode. It dramatically ups your chances of getting a positive, engaged response.
Right. You're positioning yourself as a partner from the start. Okay, so we've gotten past the initial hurdles. Now, how do we quickly build real rapport? Not just surface level politeness, but that feeling of being truly understood. Yeah, that's crucial for actually moving a deal forward. And this brings us to hack 3. Reflect with rephrasing. This one is, I think, seriously underrated but incredibly powerful for building psychological connection fast. It's more than just nodding along, more than basic active listening. It's about proving you actually get it.
How does it work in practice?
So the prospect explains a challenge, maybe a complex issue with their current process. Let's say they mention, our current system makes our team do like 5 manual steps just to update a simple client record.
Okay.
Your move is to restate that, but using your professional understanding. You might say, okay, so if I'm hearing you right, the core issue is the high friction in your workflow due to those manual data entry points. And that's likely driving up operational costs and maybe slowing down client response times.
So you're translating their everyday language into the strategic business impact.
Exactly. You're synthesizing it. It shows you didn't just hear the words, you grabbed the implication. That validation makes the prospect feel deeply understood and instantly boosts your credibility. It builds trust much faster than just saying,
That makes sense. It shows you're thinking on their level.
Uh-huh.
Okay, moving on. As the conversation flows, we obviously want to steer it towards agreement, towards a yes. Are there subtle, maybe nonverbal ways to encourage that? This next one sounds intriguing.
It really is, and it operates almost entirely subconsciously. Hack 4 is simply nod to encourage agreement. While you're making a key point, maybe summarizing a benefit or explaining how your solution works, you incorporate a slight, steady nod.
Hold on. You're saying just.
Yeah.
Nodding slightly can actually influence a major decision. That feels almost too simple to be true.
It leverages the mirroring principle. We humans are social creatures. We subconsciously mimic body language of people we're engaging with, especially if we feel some connection or alignment. When you nod gently while making a statement, there's a strong tendency for the other person to unconsciously mirror that nod, even a tiny one.
And that physical agreement translates somehow.
Often, yes. That physical act of nodding, even if it's micro movement, can prime the brain to be more receptive to the idea being presented at that moment. It creates a sort of positive feedback loop. Now, the key here, and this is vital for training, is subtlety. It can't look forced or like some weird buntic. If it's obvious, it backfires completely and feels manipulative. It needs to be natural, integrated into your normal delivery.
Right. Authenticity is key. Okay, subtle nodding. I can see how that could gently guide things. Now, let's tackle a really tough one. What about the prospect who's just indifferent? Or maybe they're loyal to a competitor. How do you crack that initial apathy?
Yes. For this, we dip into a classic social psychology tool, cognitive dissonance. This leads us to hack 5. Ask for a small favor. You might know this as the Ben Franklin effect.
Right. The idea that if someone does something nice for you, even something small, their brain has to justify it by deciding they must actually like you, or at least value the interaction more than they initially thought.
Precisely. They perform an action, helping you, and to resolve the dissonance between that action and maybe their initial indifference, they adjust their attitude towards you in a more positive direction.
So how does this work in a modern sales context? We're not borrowing quills anymore.
No. In an executive setting, the favor needs to be small, professional, and acknowledge their expertise or position. Not, can I borrow a pen? But maybe. I'm finalizing a market analysis for companies in your sector. Would you mind taking a quick 2-minute look at this one methodology slide? I'd value your perspective on whether the statistical approach resonates with how you track performance.
So it's low effort for them, but it positions them as the expert helping you.
Exactly. By granting that small favor, they engage. Their brain does that little justification dance. Why did I help this person? Well, I guess their approach seems reasonable. Maybe they're all right. It's a subtle way to warm up a cold interaction by letting them persuade themselves.
That's quite clever, letting them justify liking you. Okay, final hack. This one feels fundamental, but maybe easy to get wrong. Personalization.
It is fundamental. Hack 6 is simply repeat their name. It sounds almost trivially obvious, but using someone's name connects with them on a basic human level. It says, I see you as an individual, not just a lead in my CRM. Dale Carnegie talked about this decades ago. A person's name is the sweetest sound. It acknowledges their importance.
But there's a risk of overdoing it, right? Sounding like a cheesy salesperson from a bad movie.
Absolutely. That's the critical balance. The advice from the sales experts is quite specific here. Aim for 2 to 3 times in a typical interaction. Maybe once in the greeting, great to speak with you, Sarah. Perhaps once more when tying a key point directly to them. So, Sarah, based on what you said about X, and maybe once at the end. Thanks again for your time, Sarah.
Okay, so sparing but purposeful use. Enough to make contact. not enough to feel repetitive or insincere.
Exactly. It maximizes that feeling of personal acknowledgement without sounding unnatural or, frankly, creepy.
Got it. So bringing this all together, these 6 hacks, from standing beside someone angry to using their name just right. The big message from the sources seems to be that these aren't tricks. They're communication habits grounded in real human psychology.
That's the core point, and their effectiveness hinges entirely on using them genuinely and strategically. If it feels fake, it'll fall flat or worse.
And for the executives, the sales leaders listening, what's the strategic implication?
It's about building behavioral fluency in your teams. This is how you achieve sustained sales success. If you can train your people to master the nonverbal de-escalation of hack 1, the empathy of hack 2, the deep listening of hack 3, you're building a team that influences professionally and ethically. That leads directly to higher conversions, stronger relationships, and frankly, a more professional sales organization overall.
So if these ideas leveraging things like the Ben Franklin effect or using subtle body language resonate with you, especially if you're focused on building that truly all-star sales team,
then digging deeper into these strategies is definitely worthwhile. There's a lot more detail and related content available from the source on implementing these kinds of communication habits.
you can explore all the insights we discussed today and find more resources by visiting thesalesexperts.com. That's thesalesexperts.com. And finally, let's leave you with a thought to chew on. Building on hack 1, standing beside someone, and hack 4, the nodding. Beyond these deliberate techniques, what other, maybe unconscious nonverbal signals might you or your team be sending out? Your postures, your gestures, even just the rhythm of your speech. Are there subtle cues hindering trust or slowing down deals without you even realizing it? Often, it's the unspoken things that have the biggest impact. Think about that. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.